vinyl community, Jeff here. Had an idea today for a video. So I got some stuff in the mail today that, I've been waiting for. And this is not about that. This is about those throwaway Stiffener albums that people put in when they ship things. Now, not everybody does it. Some people put in additional cardboard. Some people just put album covers. Anything to stiffen it up. Some people actually put in full albums, though. And a lot of times I have received some, which I don't even know if I still have them anymore, that are just totally trashed. They look like somebody's played Frisbee with them. They look like they've been scratched all over the floor. They're albums that you're like, I've never even seen this kind of stuff in thrift stores. But a lot of times they're just albums that have little to no value, so there's no use selling them. But of course, they're still valuable in the sense that they are music. As they say, all vinyl lives matter, right, Steve? And so anyway, today when I got the package with the 2 albums in it that I got, there were like 3 Stiffeners in there, and it just made me think, let's talk about some of this, because I have a handful of these that I have kept and put into my collection and have listened to. Now, a lot of times it depends on the quality, the condition. There have been some, it seems like you always find, and this is even in the wild, you'll go out and find certain classic rock bands. It seems like the people who own them did not take good care of them. They played them to death. Things like, seems like every Three Dog Night, Grand Funk type album, Bachman Turner Overdrive, did I find like in thrift stores or whatever, they're always just not worth buying. They're all beat up. And I've gotten some as Stiffeners too. And I'm like, oh great, a Three Dog Night album. Oh man, this is not playable. But sometimes you get them and they're very playable. And then you look them up and you're like, sells for $1 on Discogs. So the people they're just tossing it in as extras. And so it's interesting sometimes. I find I go ahead and play most all of them, and then I see, is it something that I'm going to put into my collection? Or maybe it's something that I'm going to pass on as use as a Stiffener too, because somewhere out there is somebody who's going to enjoy this record and be surprised by it. So that's kind of the neat thing. And so I want to go across some of them that I have here. So now, this first one is not one that I got in today's package, but it is probably, in my mind, the most exciting one that I ever received. And I think I mentioned it back in the day when I got it. But somebody actually put in Unleashed in the East into my order as a Stiffener. And the album itself, was in just very good plus, near mint condition. I'm like, I didn't have that. So that was a score, because that was like a bonus. But now here's the ones from today, and it just was interesting. So Utopia. Now I'm not familiar with them. I know I've heard the name, wasn't familiar with their music. Todd Rundgren. I guess their earlier stuff would have been nice to have that. I guess because it might but the earlier stuff was more prog rock, and then in the 80s they went more pop. This is part of the pop. 1982. This is a version that has a second LP with 5 bonus tracks. It's in here. Anyway, it's in great condition. It's a white label promo. It's promo stamped also. Anyway, I gave this a listen. It is 80s pop. It is the kind of stuff like a lot of the bands back in the day that were on the radio and stuff. Pop music. Kind of reminds me a little of maybe like the Knack, or just some of those bands like that. Greg Kihn, Tommy Two-Tone, The Fix, things like that. So yeah, I listen. It's like it's in great condition. It's got a bonus album. It's promo. I'll put it in there and give it some rotation occasionally. This one I got a couple weeks ago. I have no idea. PG6. Slightly sorry. It was in the shrink, but the shrink is open. And it looks like a custom release. It's like on a weird, just blank label. It's got an insert. Looked them up. They got quite a few albums out. I guess it's mainly a guy, but it's really a band. New York, and kind of folksy type music. And I've listened to this album twice, and I dig it. And it's in like near mint condition. So yeah, that's staying with me. That was a couple weeks ago. This one came in today. I have not listened to this yet. Ray Conniff's Christmas album. It's in great condition, so I will be throwing this on. I've acquired a couple Christmas albums like that. It's an older release on the old Ray Columbia label, so I expect to give that a spin. This one not in such great condition, but maybe enough to play songs children love. This one's a little more scratched up. I may give it a shot and see what's on here, but the condition of the vinyl, maybe won't be keeping this. This one a couple months ago, England Dan and John Ford Coley. Now, honestly, when I first saw this, I'm just like, I have no idea who these guys are, but the cover was in like great condition. The album was in like great condition. Then I realized, and I mentioned this back when I got this, but I realized I didn't know who these guys were. I really love to see you tonight. This is just the classic stuff. Nights Are Forever Without You. I mean, this is like songs of the 70s, and now I keep seeing their name pop up, and I see their albums out in the wild. I never really paid attention to who they were. You know how it is, you grow up and you hear those songs on the radio, but you don't always know the artist, and you never, at least I didn't. Now I know that one. This one was a few months ago, Simply Red. It was in great condition. I gave it a spin, and it's more 80s pop. It's on Elektra. But I got to tell you, I gave it a spin, and it did nothing for me. It was actually kind of grated on my nerves after a while. I need to give it another spin, because I've heard the band, and I'm sure they're pretty popular in some circles, but it kind of was a turnoff when I listened to it. So I want to give it another spin. But this is the kind of stuff you tend to find as Stiffeners old soundtracks. The Shoes of the Fisherman. It's got Anthony Quinn, and that's about the only guy, Sir Laurence Olivier. I actually looked up this movie on the Roku to see if it's available to watch on any of the streaming channels, and it wasn't, because I'm like, I want to see the movie that this soundtrack is based off. I have given this a listen. It's a cool soundtrack from back in the day, and I have kept that in my collection. Another one, this was in a little rougher condition, but it was still, the cover was in rough condition. The album was still playable. Exodus. Again, not another, Exodus and Other Great Themes. This is kind of like just a compilation of various soundtrack things. But I've listened to this a couple times. Really need a piece of history. It's some of these older albums. This one is probably one of the oldest ones I remember getting. Floyd Kramer. Piano, jazz. And yeah, it was in like near mint condition. So I went ahead and kept it. So just curious. Stiffeners, when you get them, do you give them a try? If they're in good condition, do you consider keeping them, or do you just pass them on, or do you toss them? Let's hope you don't toss them, because all records can be enjoyed by somebody. At least that's my thoughts. So anyway, what are your thoughts? Share with me. How often do you get Stiffeners, and if so, what do you usually do with them? I'll be back though with some real stuff. Thanks a lot for watching. Rock on and rock hard.